Okay, everybody, welcome back to ELF Live. It is the Week 8 preview show, and you might be noticing a little bit of extra flair in my frame today. I've got an American flag right next to me because my fellow host on this show, Matt Bressington, comes from the United Kingdom, and today we Americans are celebrating our independence from Matt Bressington and his fellow countrymen. It's the 4th of July special. That's why I've got to rep the American flag. What's going on, everybody in the chat? To our fellow Americans, happy 4th of July. To our fellow Europeans, happy Friday. Matt Bressington, how are you doing, my man?
I'm not doing too bad. Happy 4th of July, obviously. Not the best day in terms of UK history. But
tough day for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we were fighting other wars. It's a whole story. Us and France, the usual deal when it comes to history of the UK. So
I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear any excuses why we gained our independence from you. Happy 4th to Marcus there in the chat. What's up? We've got a bunch of the regulars, Mike Mathis, hello, in the Vikings championship game 2025. Matt, they're already talking a little bit of mess to you about Prague. All right, everybody. We've got a great show for you today. It's a Friday show. Of course, we're going to do the signing center. And Matt, it's been a pretty turbulent week, especially for one team. A lot of signings, a lot of releases. They have completely rebuilt. We're going to talk about it in the signing center. And then, of course, we'll do our weekly game previews, going through every single game. And Matt and I are going to be making our picks, and we want to see your guys' picks in the chat as well. And then, of course, we have, as we do on Fridays, the Euronics question of the week. We got an interesting one this week. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about it. And then, of course, fantasy football preview. We've put our teams together. Matt's team is looking pretty damn good. You guys are going to see what he's got together. He's been a master manipulator of the currency in the fantasy football program, haven't you, Matt?
I have been. I've been playing the market. I pretty much can go for any team I want. And that's why, Nick, I'm currently 8th in the world. So I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling quite high.
He's top 10 internationally. There you go, Matt. Give yourself a little pat on the back for that one today on this difficult day for you.
Yeah, that's true. I deserve little wins, All right.
Everybody, we are live on 5 different platforms, and wherever you are watching from, do us a favor, okay? Do us a favor. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart. It helps promote the show, helps spit it out to the algorithm god so more people can see this show and find the European League of Football. So take the time. It takes half a second. Click like, give us a thumbs up right here for the show. With that being said, Matt, shall we dive on into the turbulent week that we have had in terms of signings?
Absolutely. Yes, we should.
All right, here we go. Let's start it off. I'm actually throwing it on up for the first one. Who do we have? We have got Darius Nash. I've been parting ways with the Rhine Fire. Matt, what is your thoughts on this?
This was a bit of one out of the blue. I'm going to be honest. When he came into the ELF last season, I was really high on Darius Nash coming in. He had injuries, missed the season, comes back. I was happy to bring him back. Seemed like he was playing quite well. Got that weird punt return against Vienna. One of the reasons why they won that game.
Huh?
But now he's gone, which is strange. I think. I need to get maybe into more tape and perhaps try and figure out why. But I do still think he's a great safety. He's still young as well. He's only, I believe, 25 years old. So hopefully he can bounce back and maybe be a recipient of an award we get to later as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And sticking with the Rhine Fire, then they are bringing in Chauncey Moore, the 25-year-old American, previously played in the GFL for the Hildesheim Invaders. What do you think about this one?
This guy's good. He's very good. He's a bit more, well, again, kind of similar to Darius. He can play around safety, he can play around corner and nickel as well. He is aggressive on the ball, aggressive in the box, tackles a little bit recklessly at times. They're very comparable players, so it makes sense that they would switch him out for Moore, Chauncey Moore. But it's just a bit of a strange situation. Both of them have similar experiences, but I guess they've still signed a Chauncey and they've decided to go for direction of him. But personally, I don't think it's like a tremendously massive upgrade that you would make to a team and maybe disrupts. I'm a little bit weary of this one, to be completely honest, Nick.
Yeah, this one's a little bit strange here. If you got two guys that are like pretty comparable here in production and ability, but who knows? The Rhine Fire, They've won 2 championships in a row, Matt. I mean, they know what they're doing. But now they've got a new American DB. And then also with the Rhine Fire, they placed Rory Starky Jr. on IR. He's had a lot of experience in the States playing, with the Packers, with the Patriots, and camps with those guys, and the Houston Roughnecks as well. He's been pretty solid here in the ELF. What do you make of this, Matt?
I think it was a slow start. He's only really had one big game of over 15 yards, which is not really a milestone of a receiver that's very impressive. I do think that Rory is a very talented receiver, but we've only really seen one game of him of what he can do as full potential. Maybe, switch of offensive coordinator, a lot of pressure at the top with Ryan, with Tom Sula leaving and Coach Kent sliding in, and then you have different change with Armstrong coming in at offensive coordinator. So they've had a bit of a weird season of the Rhine Fire. So we haven't seen the most of Rory. I'm hoping, again, another player I'd liked coming into this year. And I'm hoping, again, we can see more of this potential because he can make big plays. We saw that massive one against Vienna, and it completely turned the tide in the first game. So we need to see just a little bit of maybe a comeback because those 4 games were not great. I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah, that is true. I see everybody in the chat here talking about the Helvetic Mercenaries. Don't worry, we're going to be talking about them in about 60 seconds here, but we got to mention the replacement of Starkey. The Rhine Fire signed wide receiver Mark Pope from Miami. And if you know anything about players from Miami, tough little buggers here. Matt, what do you think?
That's a very English term, on a certain day. But this guy he's fast. He's very, very fast. You can see it in his build, only 175. So you would expect that speed coming from that kind of a build of player. Great ball tracker, great deep threat, can play on the sideline, can come into slot and be a dangerous option there too. He can be pushed off of routes because of his slighter build, but I do think that he is he opens the field up a lot for them and gives them a deep threat they have been missing. Ryan Fire got injuries to the receiver core at the moment, so we'll kind of see them potentially go to him a lot because they need someone that can take the top off. They've not had someone that can do that to them this season, and it's definitely showed with their downward passing attack.
I'll tell you, someone who does not like that signing of Pope is Jamal, Athletes Forum. He is a Florida Gators fan, and he says, "Go Gators." I don't think he's going to be supporting Pope very much with the Rhine Fire. But it's interesting. We got the Rhine Fire with all these moves right now, a team that's kind of more at the top of the league and had a lot of success. And then, Matt, it's time, and everybody in the chat, it's time we have to talk about the Helvetic Mercenaries, who had probably the wildest week in terms of signings and releases that we might have seen in ELF history right here. So we've got this graphic with all the players that they have released, some big names on there, including Milan Spiller, okay? One of Matt Bressington's favorite players in the league previously. But then you see on the side of signing, they do have one more player than they have released. So actually, it's a net positive for the Helvetic Mercenaries in terms of bringing players in. It's a +1. Matt, what jumps out to you here on the guys that were released? Obviously, Milan Spiller, I think, is kind of a big one as he's a hometown hero there.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, half their offense is gone. Of course, their offensive line is now gone. That was already a problem. None of those guys, I'm not going to lie, were performing great. Weed's also gone. Spiller's also gone. Tyrell's gone as well, the running back position. So they're missing a lot on offense. I like what they've done with the defense in some ways. They've kind of reallocated some positions. They've got Darius Nash, we just talked about. They've got Devin Burrell as well, who's going to make an impact on special teams and give the offense better field position. I know he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder about parting ways with the Panthers and coming over to the Mercenaries. So he's going to be playing hard. I think Darius also, same thing, kind of like maybe a little bit blindsided by the move. He's going to hopefully try and make kind of someone else pay for that, and be physical on the field. But there is a lot. Of course, looking at that whole list, you've got to call into question maybe the glue of the team is going to be a little bit shaky, you would think, right?
Yeah, what's the culture going to look like? Who's going to keep that roster sort of glued together? I mean, a lot of new guys coming here in the middle of the season. Granted, it's not like they were having success this season at all anyway, so maybe the full changeup might do something. But it is just a fully shuffled deck of cards there with the Helvetic Mercenaries. And I like what you said, guys like Devin Burrell, who are coming in probably with a chip on their shoulder and who want to make an impact here and kind of make a statement to send it out to the league. Hey, I got released from this team. I'm coming right here. I got this opportunity. So maybe we see a little bit of extra fire from some of those guys. But it remains to be seen, the newly built Helvetic mercenaries. But they are on schedule to be playing the Paris Musketeers this weekend. It is on schedule and should all go according to plan. Matt, what do you think about the Helvetic mercenaries here? The full takeaway of just this big shuffle. Just it kind of reeks of desperation to me, but maybe it was a desperate time.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you didn't pull your punches on that one because I think you're right. I think that they didn't do enough in the preseason to build a competitive roster. They didn't recruit the best Swiss players. Some of the best, the kind of Broncos just won the CEFL, so they're a great team. You've got, or they might, maybe, I can't remember if they won it, but they're definitely in the in around the finals. So some great Swiss players within the country. They did not recruit any Italians when they were allowed to have Italians as homegrowns. Their A's were risky and they were gambles. I mean, sure, you could argue that they signed an NFL receiver. You'd think they get a bit more production out of him, but and then with defensively, again, the shuffling around positional stuff is never the best thing. You have a guy that's played defensive end or a guy that's played linebacker for his whole career, and you're moving players around. I'm not a fan of it. I like specialists. I like a safety to play safety. I like a running back to play running back. I like a receiver to play receiver. I do not think they invested best into the offensive line. There's a lot of things I think they did wrong, Nick. I could be here all day. When you look at the team they had in their first season, their second season, they had Beard. Congratulations on retirement, by the way. They had Naz. They had Ken Hike. They had all these outstanding ELF legends. How many do they have now, Nick? Zero. Not even Milan Spiller, who was a rookie of the year last year, a rookie phenom, and they managed to keep him. So I think it's a deep organizational issue. I think they got a lot to learn from other teams in the league. They managed to rebuild, like Prague, like Surge. I think those two are classic cases of how to rebuild a team. Because I didn't mention it last week, but if you remember, Prague just, what was it, not last year, the year before, they had a mass exodus of players. Players did not turn up.
Yeah.
2 years later, they're one of the hottest teams in the league. So there is the blueprint for this and one to follow for sure.
Exactly. Well put right there. So, Helvetic Mercenaries, get Matt Bressington's number on the phone. Okay, get him on the phone at this offseason. Help build that roster as you guys have done with the Prague Lions. All right. So there we have it. That's our signing center. Some big moves coming out of Switzerland, and we'll see how they hold up against the Paris Musketeers this week. All right, Matt, speaking of this week, it's time we dive into some of our games of the weeks. Okay. What do we have? Let's throw on up the first game that we have. Maxie, there she goes. And we've got the Rhine Fire at the Raiders T-Roll. Now, this is interesting. We were just talking about the Rhine Fire here, Matt, with some of their new moves that they've gotten, a new American wide receiver. The Raiders shown flashes of talent, sometimes been pretty disappointed, especially when playing against some of the upper echelon talented teams in the league, like Vienna last week. What do you make of this matchup?
I think this is a fascinating matchup. I like circled this one in Canada because I do not think we've ever had this matchup, and I think it's a fun one. It's a fun one on paper, right? You got like the explosive offense of Ryan historically versus like the kind of grind you out and end up winning the game physically, the Raiders. So it is a fascinating one. If I'm going to pick a way to go, I think that the Raiders are going to try to impose themselves in the run. They've had some injuries to running back position, and I think the Ryan Fire are going to be able to kind of counterpunch, score quickly, get Raiders back in the ball, and kind of like use their slow tempo against them. So just kind of drown them out of the game. I think that's what I'm thinking for the Ryan Fire. They're a very, very good team defensively, especially. And I think they've only just been picking up form as the season's gone on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it is interesting. They definitely do have two different styles of offense here with the Raiders, just kind of ground and pound and trying to run it out and just sort of wear you down with that running back group they've got. Fire have been interesting. I mean, they're not throwing the ball all too much, and maybe that some of that has to do with some of their receiver drama that we just saw them shuffling around with, and they're not being able to really connect through the air like we've seen the Rhine Fire of years past be able to do. But Matt, I'm just not sure, man. We've got in the chat, we've got someone saying Rhine Fire by 2 touchdowns here. That's Cedric Rogers. Do you think it'll be that close?
That's a good question. I'm gonna go with no. I'm not. I think Ryan have got this one comfortably. We saw with Vienna, a team that Ryan beat and were very competitive with in both games. they beat Vienna, but Vienna kind of ran through the Raiders both tries. I know what you're going to say, you're going to look at the score, but let's be honest, like they had that game wrapped up way before the score was over. I think that I think the Fire might be trying to make a playoff bid. I think the Raiders, they got such a tough schedule, by the way, the next couple of weeks. So I think that's going to be the difference, is that Fire have had some of that tough schedule. The Raiders have only just got it coming up. So I think that's going to play a part, and I think the Fire are going to be able to win, maybe even by 2.5, like a field goal, maybe 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
Could be. Marcus in the chat says, whatever Matt picks, I'm going the opposite in honor of.
Fair.
Very fair there, Marcus. I might have to do the exact same thing. All right, Matt. Should we then decide what we think is going to happen this weekend? Who do you got?
Yeah, I got Ryan Fire. Who you got?
You know what, Matt? I want so badly to disagree with you in honor of this flag today, but I'm gonna go with you as well, Ryan Fire, and I think it might be more than 2 touchdowns. I think it might be 2.5. It might be 3 scores right there, because the Ryan Fire, it's another situation. Remember last year when everyone was kind of talking about the Ryan Fire after they lost to Madrid, and it's not the Ryan Fire of old. They're done. And we saw what happened in the second half of the season with that squad. Granted, there's a lot of new pieces there, new quarterback, new coaches, etc. But I still think a lot of that cultural element does remain. And I feel like the Ryan Fire are going to be really picking up steam here in the second half of the season. And that starts this weekend against the Raiders, T-Roll. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be a beautiful venue. I say this every time this comes up. I love that stadium, Tivoli Stadium in Innsbruck, Austria. So as long as the Ryan Fire players don't get distracted by the beautiful mountains outside of the stadium, I think they should be just fine. All right, so we're both in agreement. Ryan Fire this weekend. All right, Matt, let's move on to another game that you've got a very emotional attachment to, and I will actually be calling this game 24 hours from now from the West Coast of the United States, and that is the Prague Lions at the Vienna Vikings. This one's interesting, man. They played in week 1, and I think a lot of people were kind of surprised at the start of the season. Prague did lose, but as we talked about off camera, it was a 1-score game at halftime. The final score was 28-6. Prague actually, held up pretty well. And if you look at the Prague Lions now, okay, yeah, they lost their first 2 games. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now. The Prague Lions are the hottest team in the league, Matt. What do you make of this matchup here?
I think it's a fascinating matchup. There's so many different ways this game could go, which is not something we would have imagined ourselves saying a while ago. But
very interesting.
This is Willie P's game. If Willie P wants to go for the Offensive Player of the Year, wants to go for those All-Star votes, I think that's going to be the way that he gets it. A win or I'm going to go for it. I'm all on the Prague hype at the moment. A win here would elevate not only Prague to the playoff spots and to legendary status, but also Willie P into All-Star and a ton of other Prague players that deserve the eyes of the All-Star voting into that position. This one's a tough one, granted, because Vienna are just littered with amazing players. They have had a few players, be injured, a little bit banged up during the year. Kari's just come off IR, but then Lalo goes back on. It's a slightly weakened Vienna team. We've seen them be vulnerable against the Ryan Fire, and they've got the same record as Prague. So I'm just saying, is it crazy? Is it crazy, Nick?
I don't know, Matt. You are sometimes a little bit crazy when it comes to the Prague Lions, but so far this year, you've been proven to be right, especially if you look back last week. I mean, you're fighting through some chirping from other organizations with your predictions with Prague, but hey, man, you're coming out on top so far. But will you take it as far as to say they'll beat the reigning championship contender Vienna Vikings? We'll throw up here, Maxie, the keys to the game for the Vikings. We just saw the keys to the game for the Prague Lions. And what we've got here, Matt, overload the edges, close the space in the box, and get Kari back into the game. You just mentioned it, Kari coming off IR. Obviously, hasn't been in the conversation of the ELF so far this year. What do you make of Kari coming back? How big of an impact do you think that he'll have on this game and Prague trying to stop that run?
I think he's a phenomenal player. I've been a fan of Kari since his first season at ELF, maybe a little bit before too. So I'm worried about him as someone who was rooting for Prague, because he is such a diverse, balanced running back. He could do a little bit of everything. Probably the most balanced running back in the league. Just depends how healthy he is fully. Of course, we discussed IR a couple weeks ago. He's been cleared 100%, so he must be ready to go. But is he going to have a little bit of ring rust? We'll find out. It's a great run defense for Prague. Jakub Smudny's been excellent. Danik's been one of the league leaders in sacks as well. So I think it could be potential. I think it could be potential to stop the run game. But then again, you got Ben Holmes. You got such an amazing pass game that It's going to be very, 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 very hard to stop. I'm not going to lie.
Well, Matt, just throwing up a comment from ELFpedia. Beer Bomber will snack on some DB. So even if they're able to stop the run game right there, you got a matchup nightmare in Florian Beer Bomber. Who's going to stop him?
I mean, they got 2 American corners. I don't think anyone's been able to throw deep so far in that team, but you are right. Florian is terrifying. He's such a phenomenal player, and he kind of turns up in the big games too. We saw him get a hat-trick last week, so I ain't gonna lie, scared of him, scared of Schultz, scared of Yannick Meyer. I'm scared of half of that, well, probably 2/3 of that team that could score touchdowns on ease on most teams, so it's not going to be an easy one, Nick.
It's not going to be an easy one. ELFpedia also says, hope they'll use Schultz anyway. He's a great newcomer. He has filled in really well while Kari's been on IR. So now they maybe have a little bit of a 1-2 punch in the backfield. All right, Matt, let's go crazy. Let's go crazy right now, okay? Let me go first. I'm going to take the Vienna Vikings, okay? I love the Prague Lions right now. Best story in the ELF so far this season. Love them. But I got to go with the Vienna Vikings this year. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Matt, what do you say?
I think you know what I'm going to go for here, Nick. I think, it is 4th of July. I don't want to disrespect you too much, but I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I'm going to go for Prague Lions. The flag is gonna be flying for Prague this week because they're going to win the game. It's going to be a tight one. It's going to be a grind out, but these picks are we're putting a bit of fun into the game, and I like the controversy. I think some people will disagree, but they disagree with me on Galaxy. They disagree with me before FIBO. And look how we are. We're going for the Prague Lions to beat the Vienna Vikings in a historic game. We're great away. We're 4-0 away. That carries a lot of weight, Nick.
They called him a madman, but he's been proven to be right time and time again. I don't know if that's going to continue this weekend, but Matt Bressington got the Prague Lions. I'm sticking with the Vienna Vikings. You guys tune into that one. Like I said, I'll be on the call screaming my head off. And Matt, maybe I'll find a way to sneak your name into the broadcast as well. All right. So there we have it. Moving on to our next game. Also a really, really interesting game. Let's get sunny down in Spain as the Bavarian boys, the Munich Ravens, head down to play the Madrid Braavos, 2 teams that have been pretty impressive in their own right, and especially young man Russell Tabor, quarterback of the Munich Ravens, MVP of the week last week, coming off that huge win against the Stuttgart Surge, winning with 12 seconds left in the game. And then you got the Madrid Braavos, Matt, who have been fantastic offensively, not as fantastic defensively. What do you make of this game?
This might be my favorite game of the week. That's saying a lot considering what I just spoke about. But this game has every single possible factor that could lead to a shootout. You've got Russell Tabor, who's not afraid to push the ball downfield, take risks. That's what he's all about. We saw him against that with the Surge both times. We've seen that against many teams. They scored 35 and a quarter against the Mercs. And then you have Madrid, which have the first 1,000-yard receiver in 6 games. I just did a whole video about his pace that he's currently on. You got Reed Sinnott. You've got a great offensive mind, Andrew Wandinger, who is averaging crazy numbers. If this game isn't over 70 points, I don't really know what else it could be. These are the 2 best offenses, pretty much, in terms of volume scoring in the league. And I think this is going to be a box office must-watch game of the season.
This is going to be a summer blockbuster hit, okay? We've got the F1 movie in theaters, all right? We've got Mission Impossible in theaters, and then we've got the Ravens and the Braavos on DAZN ELF Game Pass, which you guys got to check that out. Okay, we've said Athletes Forum Podcast. Also take the over 75-plus points will be scored. Just as you said, we think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game right here. Jamal says Madrid's offense is the best show in Europe. And then Karen Hogg, we know, a big Munich homer, says that Munich defense is going to turn up big. We throw up here some of the keys to the game, please, Maxie. We've got for the Ravens. And Matt, we've got here, use the run as the point of attack. And Matt, we've seen the Madrid Braavos run defense kind of get run all over in certain games, like we saw it with the Frankfurt Galaxy a few weeks ago. Do you think that the Ravens are going to be able to exploit it just like that?
I think they could. Rodney's a very explosive running back. I'm a big fan of him. Tabor's great with his legs as well, so he can get out. We saw him kind of not take over that kind of drive, but it felt like it at the end of the game with the Surge, where he was just running out the middle with those big gains, that flip where he hit his own nose and came back in. So he can definitely take it, and he's a physical guy. So I think they can do that. I think that, like we said, Madrid, not great against the run. We saw that against with the Raiders as well. They kind of allow them to control the clock. I think they can do it. I think the run game is going to be important. I think they're going to. I think there might be 1,000 yards in this one and 70 points. Like, there's so many ways that both teams can score. But my thing is, Munich have arguably the better defense out of the two of them, which I think is an interesting point.
Yes, it is. Hey, and everyone, we see your chats wherever you're watching from. We got a lot of great chatters and participants from YouTube. If you're watching on other platforms, speak up, chime on in. We want to know where you're watching from and give us your thoughts from whatever platform you're on. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Instagram, if you're on TikTok, okay? Chime on into the chat right there because we got a lot of great YouTubers chiming in. We got RT Blue says Madrid by 9. Well, Max, you go ahead and throw up the keys to the game for the home team, the Braavos. And we've got on there, Matt, Aaron Cruikshank. That is all. And I think that that speaks for itself. And then, of course, win the shootout. So you think if Madrid is to win this game, it is simply because they were able to win the shootout, not that they're able to stop Munich.
I think so. Yeah, I can't see a way. I know that I think it was Hayden Stephenson put screams 70 points or 10, which I definitely get the vibe of that. But I don't see a way that we can get multiple scores. I think these guys, fantasy football pickup wise, could be a safe bet. I think Aaron Cruikshank, he has one. Right, let me give you a fact from my project recently, Nick. One game is all he needs to have the most 200-yard performances in ELF history. And this is only his 7th game of his career. So Aaron Cruikshank, he's on record-breaking form. Bear that in mind. He had one of 198. It's he was really close to doing that anyway. So he's been phenomenal. I've had some messages about other people in the MVP race that they feel that Cruikshank shouldn't be in the MVP discussion. So I think he's going to try and make a statement this weekend.
As the Brits love to say, bloody hell, that is impressive, Aaron Cruikshank. Okay. All right, Matt. Comes down to it. What are our picks? Who do you like for this weekend?
I think I'm going to favor that defense. I'm going to go for the Munich Ravens. I think they take it. I think people doubted me, Nick, for having them in the top, near the top of my power. People call me crazy. They're 5-1. Yeah. People call me crazy. They're like, oh, is Matt joking? No, I never joke about power rankings. They're 5-1. They just beat the Surge. I'm confident. I appreciate Casper Harker saying I look cute. I appreciate it.
There you go. Throw that up. Casper Harker coming in from TikTok. TikTok comments says Matt looks cute. Casper, I'm wondering where my comment is. If you don't think that I look cute here with my American flag, please leave a comment.
He's a Brit, so you'll be on my side.
This is unbelievable. Unbelievable bias against the American flag here today. All right, Matt, you got a little crazy in the last one, didn't you? Picking Prague to beat Vienna. And I don't know if this is as crazy, but maybe, maybe a little bit of a riskier pick. But I'm going to go with the Madrid Braavos, brother. I think it is going to be a shootout. We're going to have an exciting, high-scoring game. It's going to be fun as hell to watch. And in the end, Sinnott and Cruikshank, they're gonna score their way to a victory here. So give me the Madrid Braavos this week. What do you think of that, Matt?
I mean, I can understand, it's a shootout. Anyone can win a shootout. But what's your over-under on yards? I said it could be 1,000. Do you reckon it might be near that? Do you reckon it's more like an 800 or 700 vibe?
Give me 1,000, man. I'm going for a high-scoring, just track meet football game right here.
I wonder what is the most yards ever gotten in the ELF game. That might be a question for ELFopedia.
ELFopedia, if you can figure that out, most yards ever gotten in a single ELF game. Wasn't it 1,200? Wasn't that?
That was an insane one this year that I feel like had over that. I think Madrid were involved in that one too. So I think it might be Madrid versus Galaxy. I think they had some crazy numbers.
Yeah, it was probably that one there.
That might be up there.
No defense, high-powered offense. It's fun to watch. All right, there we have it. Madrid and Ravens. Matt, you and I are on different sides of the coin on this one, and we'll see who's laughing on Monday. Let's move on to our next game. A team we were just talking about in the signing center that's looking brand new. The Helvetic Mercenaries will be hosting the Paris Musketeers this week. And Matt, this is, let's just be real here. This is going to be a tough one for the Helvetic Mercenaries. Paris Musketeers, one of the stronger teams in the league. And the Mercenaries, well, they're brand new. We really have no idea what to expect from them other than that this is their first game for a lot of them coming in. What do you make of this one?
I think you summed up well. I think the lack of team cohesion is going to be a present issue, and I think Paris now, they kind of had struggles at the start. They're a lot more bonded, a lot more together. They picked up a lot of pace. that defense is hard to score for on anyone. Like Surge didn't score on this defense.
Yeah.
And they got a ton more talent on offense, respectfully, than the Mercs. So I don't see a way the Mercs are going to be able to win this one. I think Paris, if you look throughout the keys to success match, Maxi, if you don't mind, the run game's starting to heat up. I think Nicholas Kantar is going to have a big one. I think that they're going to shut out. It's Tantes cardio. You know, that they've just come into the league. Some of them might be a little bit off the couch and maybe not so ready to go. So with that like 5-headed monster of a running back room, I think Paris are going to be okay.
It is time to test the cardio. And then Max, you throw up the keys of the game for the Helvetic mercenaries here, okay? Take gambles. I like that. Take gambles. You know, you have nothing to lose here. Give us some trick plays. Go a little crazy here. Try and get creative, all right? I mean, your back's up against the wall, Helvetic mercenaries, so start fast and take gambles. I'm a fan of that. However, I don't see those gambles paying off in the long run. Maybe a couple interesting plays here and there. But Matt, when it comes down to it, I think you and I are both going to be on the same page. I got to go with the Paris Musketeers on this one.
Yeah, I'm going with them too.
There we go. And surprise, Marcus is also going with Paris. Marcus, you said that you were going to go against Matt on every pick. So actually you have to change to the Helvetic mercenaries. Jump in there with Jamal and support the Mercs on this one. We're all on the same side on this one, and good luck to the Mercs this weekend. All right, Matt, let's move on to our next game. We've got another winless team with the Cologne Centurions traveling to Poland to play the Panthers. And also, this is coming off the interesting week with the Panthers where they let go of Devin Burrell. And we're going to Daryl Stewart Jr. had a pretty solid game last week. You've got him in keys to the game for the Panthers is get him the ball more often and to also run the ball. What do you make of this game in particular?
This was a weird one. Again, it's Cologne, so I don't want to harp on them again. I've harped them a little bit, but the Panthers, they're kind of in a weird position. They are having now close games. Is this the worst Panthers team we've ever seen?
Ooh, it feels like it, Matt. It feels like it because we've previously talked about them as being, playoff championship contenders, and this season they are not in that conversation whatsoever.
Exactly. Like you look at 2 seasons ago, they're beating Prague by 60. Now they're getting beaten out by 40. So like that's a 100-point swing right there. So
that's a crazy swing.
Crazy. So I think that I think they need to make a lot of improvements. I think that they need to start running the ball a lot more with Zozo. I do not think they've been using him enough. And I want to see more from that defense. Like we did see Devin Burrell got released, which is a shame. They brought in a new player from Akron. I think that is going to be fucking welcome to the party. You get to play against me, one of the easiest teams in the league. So it's a nice warm up for him. But I don't see a way that Cologne are really going to be able to test the Panthers. I think that it's the next season's the goal, really, isn't it, with the Cologne Centurions?
It is. If you throw up our keys to the game for Cologne, it's hey, get to next season, figure it out, keep working. Props to all those players in the Cologne that keep coming in week and week out. It's tough, but we got to give them their kudos. But unfortunately, Matt, I am going to have to go with the Panthers, even though I'm not loving the Panthers this year. But I mean, it's probably going to be a reasonably easy game for them this weekend at home. What do you make? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I said it was the worst Panther team we've ever seen, but I do still think they're going to win this one and win this one fairly convincingly. So I'm going to go for them as well.
There we have it. All right, both of us on the same page on that one. Moving on to our next game, and we do have one other winless team in this one, and that's the Verheervar Enthroners traveling down to Baden-Württemberg, Germany, to play the 4-2 Stuttgart Surge at home. And the Surge are coming off that heartbreaking loss against Munich last week that has left a bad taste in their mouth, and they're just chomping at the bit to get back on the football fields. We've got here in the keys to the game, Matt, for the Stuttgart Surge. Keep the ball for long drives, use that speed, and get pressure in the pocket. And I think some of that speed and that pressure is going to be tough for the Enthroners to handle. What do you make of this one, Matt?
It's another difficult team to be going up against for the Enthroners. The Surge are a great team. Like I said, with the speed, they got Tomoe. Yeah, well, they've got players that are fast on every single position, even down to the offensive and defensive line. They're quick. So this is a very athletic team. I think the point I made with the keeping the ball for long drives is the Enthroners can push the ball downfield. They're very air attack. Like
Yeah.
they brought it to the Panthers. So if the Surge just kind of keep the ball to themselves for a little bit, keep running the ball with that great running back room, and they should be able to control time possession. I don't think the Enthroners are going to be able to keep up with that pace.
No, absolutely. But you're right, man. I mean, we've seen Brock Duman. I think last week it was that he had 3 touchdowns through the air and like 250 yards or something, no picks, if I remember correctly. Like, so showing a little bit of flashes there and a little bit of potential. But against this Surge defense, man, I'm just I don't think it's gonna be happening, especially at Gazi Stadion. And I am, of course, gonna have to go with the Stuttgart Surge on this one. Are you with me or are you against me, Matt, on this 4th of July?
Gonna be hard to go against you, even if it is 4th of July, because I'm gonna go for the Surge as well. It's your team and it's your day, so it'd be rude for me to kind of go against you a little bit here, I think.
That would be rude on my special day. And well, that's funny. We've got Marcus. He says, I'll be taking 2 of my daughters to that game. They're 25% Hungarian, but 100% Surge. That might be the best comment we've got so far in the chat today. That's a beautiful, beautiful piece of literature right there, Marcus. That'll be fun for you guys. So we're both on the Surge train this week, of course. All right, Matt, moving on to our last game of the season with another one of the most interesting teams in the league, the brand new Nordic Storm, sitting at 5-0, undefeated in their first 5 games in ELF history, at the Hamburg Sea Devils. It's always interesting, Matt, when you got a guy like Jadrian who previously played for Hamburg, going back to his home old team and really probably wanting to prove a point, kind of rub it in. Oh, you guys made a mistake moving off me, and look what I've been doing since then. What do you make of this matchup?
Yeah, I think you're right. And Jadrian's a man that remembers things. So I think
Right,
this one is, so this one gonna be heated. And you look at the Sea Devils, they've never found their guy since Jadrian. So that's always an interesting point too. I think the Storm are going to be imposed their will at this one. Jadrian wants the MVP, I think, more maybe than he wanted his last. Like he's been messaging me about how much he wants the MVP consideration. So he's going to be up there. He's going to be slinging it. You know how good Brandon Bolio is as well. They've got a ton of weapons on this offense, but the Sea Devils offense has looked, it's just not being great. It's just I'm interested to see your thoughts. But also, just want to give a shout to Kyle Kitchens. Partner just announced he's going to be a father. So congratulations to him. I know how much you love a player that has a child to play for. So I know
if you think, Matt, if you think that Kyle Kitchens has been terrorizing offenses not as a father, just wait till he has a child and then he gets that dad strength. It's going to be a whole nother level. He's going to be terrorizing offensive lines. And who knows? We saw him have a 4-sack game the other day. Maybe once he becomes a father, he'll have a 6-sack game. But whatever he does, it's not going to be enough. Matt, it's not going to be enough to beat the Nordic Storm. I think they're just too strong. They're just too put together. That offense is beautiful and fun to watch. That defense is also very fun to watch. It's interesting. You were talking about the Hamburg Sea Devils have not found their guy since they got rid of Jay. They're like the Miami Dolphins once Dan Marino retired. Just been searching for their quarterback for decades and decades, and just you haven't found your guy. I mean, you got Tua. I don't know if he's Dan Marino. And that's sort of the same situation with the Hamburg Sea Devils. They lost Jadrian, and they haven't found his replacement since. And Matt, I'm going to be going with Jadrian and the Nordic Storm for this one. Pretty comfortably, I would say. Who you got?
Yeah. I'm going to go for comfortably as well. I think an interesting point here could be Max Parkinson and Carl Kitchens, 2 guys at the top of the sack table. That could be a nice little, defensive player of the year. We've talked a lot about MVP. Defensive player of the year is so wide open. You've got Lucky, Max, you got Kyle, you got even Latoro. You've got so many guys that are up for that. And I think this one maybe could be a bit of a tempo change for one of them.
There we go. Like that. All right. Both of us are on the Nordic Storm train this week, and we'll see if we are right. Okay, Matt, there we have it. Those are all of our individual game previews. Now, let's we got playoff implications in sight in week 8. Maxie, do we have the playoff graphic actually? If we just take a quick look at that real quick. I mean, it's the same as on Monday, but it's a beautiful, interesting one that we've got. And then here is the full slate of games right here. Oh, hold on. We're waiting. Our producer Maxie is going to throw up the proper playoff graphic here in a second. Matt, which one of these are you most excited for? Besides the Prague Lions one, and I know why you're excited is because I'm calling that one, isn't it?
Of
That's
course.
why. What else?
We've been waiting for your return to commentary for a while, so I'm excited. Naz ain't too happy we didn't mention him for the Hamburg Sea Devils. We're talking about the offense, bro. We were
So I
talking
don't
about
exist.
and Carl's just had a baby, so we're picking. We've only got an hour here, but there. I think it's got to be that shootout between the Ravens and Braavos. That's the one I'm looking forward to. I think it's going to be an absolute barn burner. We could have that 1,000-yard mark. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I got that one circled. I mean, my two favorite are going to be the Prague and Vienna one, and then the Braavos Ravens. They're probably the two ones that I've got circled. Ryan Fire and Raiders also could be interesting, but who knows? All right, Max, you go ahead and throw up that playoff graphic for us. What? Wait. What? Maxie?
Next one.
Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. We're waiting for the playoff graphic. You know what? Technicals. We're going to move on. All right. We'll move on from the playoff implications and we'll get to. Oh, never mind. Maxie says to wait. All right. We'll wait.
Okay.
Let's see what's going on in the chat here, Matt. We go. ELFPD says all Saturday matchups are good. Sunday will be boring. Yeah, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now we've got the playoffs. It's the same as it was on Monday with the Storm and the Surge there in the first round, the Musketeers and the Fire in the first round, and our two bye week teams. And for if anybody missed it on Monday, freaking out why the Storm are not in the bye position, it is because of the tiebreaker situation. I said this on Monday. It's because it has to do with your in-conference wins. And that is why currently the Nordic Storm are in the position they are. But if they continue as they are and win all their games in conference, then yeah, sure. By the end of the season, they'll be in that position. So relax, everybody. Just relax. All right. So Matt, what do you make of the playoff situation right now? You think anything's going to shuffle around this week?
100%. I think it's going to shuffle around. Obviously, Vienna are going to lose, so they're going to go down maybe a little bit in that. Prague are going to win, so of course they'll end up in that playoff. By the way, how mad is it that we're talking about Prague in the playoffs? Crazy turnover. Surge versus Storm in that. That's just intriguing. And then you got maybe Munich getting that first round bye because that's a team that has started in this league and just got better every season. Like Munich could be so good. Paris as well, another good example of that. Some of these new franchises, Nick, that don't have a history, Vienna have a history. Ryan kind of had a history. These new franchises, having all these guys come through and just build up, Surge again, another example of just getting better and better. The fact that these guys are the ones in the playoffs making the league so proud is wonderful to see. These teams are absolutely amazing. And if you look at that whole playoff bracket, literally any of those could end up winning the title. And that's what makes this league so phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Because you look at that, it is a toss-up. I mean, we see some of these teams just beating each other in a little rock, paper, scissors type situation. You never know what's going to happen week to week. Notably, Madrid is currently not in this playoff picture, but they're also a team that, especially depending on what happens this weekend, if they're able to beat the Ravens, they'll maybe jump on up in there into that beautiful graphic on Monday if they are able to win that predicted shootout. All right, so there we have it. That will always be shuffling around, especially in the second half of the season, man. We'll be talking about that each week. All right, let's get to our Euronics and eGrid question of the week, which we've been doing on Fridays. Okay, and Maxie, if you want to throw up the graphic here, who will win the comeback player of the year this year? If you guys saw on social media, the league announced there's going to be 2 new awards at ELF Honors. One of them will be comeback player of the year. The other offensive line of the year. Comeback player of the year, Matt. Who are you rattling around in your brain that could be mentioned in this conversation?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Me and you talked before the show about comeback in certain situations, especially with the ELF. Is a player coming back from Canada, come back? Is a player coming with an injury? Of course, a player going to a different team, maybe mid-season. There's a ton of different things that could be comeback player. I'm going to go for Lucky out in Vienna, though. Like, he came back to the league. He's looked phenomenal ever since he did. If you remember, he played for the Raiders back in the day, went to Canada to play in the CFL, was come back to the Vikings, and it's just been, I dare say, unstoppable, Nick. Like, I was watching tape of him against Fire just yesterday. He is so good off the edge, and he left as a linebacker. He's moved closer to the line of scrimmage to play as more of a pass rusher. But he is so athletic. He's so fast. He's so good. He might be the best edge in the league. And I think that warrants comeback player of the year.
Okay, I like it right there. Now, Matt, I think you're going to like the name that I throw out here. And Aiden Stephenson also agrees with me. And I'm going to go with Javarian Smith as comeback player of the year. Now, this needs to, this is a caveat. He needs to continue on how he's been playing so far, and Prague needs to continue with the success that they had. He hasn't had any crazy statistical games, but he's done a great job managing that Prague offense and helping lead them to wins. And they're on a 4-game win streak right now, man. And obviously, after playing in Hamburg and not having so much success, bouncing out to Prague. He used to play in Prague for the Black Panthers back in the day, so he's literally come back to Prague. Add that to the reasons why he should be in the conversation for comeback player of the year. But if he and the Prague Lions are able to continue even a semblance of this success, I mean, they don't have to win out or anything like that. But if they're able to still, end the season with 7 wins or so, I think that he should absolutely be in the conversation. Jamal says Sandro had a chance, and unfortunately, Sandro is injured and now on IR. If you guys have any other ideas who should be in the conversation for comeback player of the year, feel free to put them in the chat. But Matt, I think those are probably our answers for it now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I like the Raheem Christensen shout from Jamal. I think that's a fun one. He retired, came back to play for his hometown team. So, hometown city team. So that's a fun one. I like that one. I think there's a couple guys. I think Matthew McKay, maybe if he picks up a really good end, could be in that discussion. I think Jared Allman as well. Maybe he takes over the hype that Sandro would have had for this one. I think there's a ton of options that could be for comeback player of the year, and I love the addition of the award.
Love the addition of the award. Absolutely awesome. And we're really looking forward to ELF honors this year in Stuttgart. We had a great time last year, didn't we, Matt?
It was phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. That was great. That was one of the best days of my life. I'm not even trying to act like it wasn't. It was great. I'm smiling ear to ear every single second of that awards show.
And you know what? I actually got my suit tailored because I got married. I had to wear my suit in a wedding. Now my suit is tailored. I'll be looking way cleaner this year. All right, so there we have it. We're going to have that Euronics question of the week every single week on social media, and you guys can comment under their social media post to put your question and have it featured as the question of the week every single Friday on this program. All right, Matt, final segments, and this is a segment that I feel a little bit, I don't know, unfair because your fantasy football team is miles ahead of mine due to your currency manipulation and everything you've been able to do with roster building here. Maxie, let's move on to the fantasy football preview presented by Citizen. You guys know the drill. There are awards to be won and prizes to be won every single week, and then also over the course of the entire season. And Matt, you were just talking about it earlier. You're currently 8th in the entire world in ELF fantasy football, aren't you?
I am indeed. I'm see kind of shows I'm maybe a glass half empty guy because Nick, I was annoyed this week. I got 255 points, which on any other week would have won the award for the best of the week. I didn't even come second. I didn't even get in the top 2 this week with 255. So I'm feeling a little bit annoyed about that. I got to do better next week, but I am currently 8th. A friend of mine, Danny from Fourth Down Fiasco, is in 7th. The Alephapedi, I think, is in 4th, and a friend of our show is in 1st as well. So I'm kind of like 4th in a friendship group, and I feel a little bit left out. I need to at least be on the podium.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you're doing great. However, within your peer group, you got a couple guys ahead of you, and that never feels good. Maxie, let's go ahead and throw up my fantasy team so far this week. Because once you see Matt's, you're going to just be blown out of the water. Okay, here's who I've got. All right, Russell Tabor, of course, at the performance last week. I just need it. Don't throw the interceptions, Russell. Don't throw the interceptions. All right, but he did. It was very productive last week going against the Madrid Braavos defense. We think that game's going to be a shootout. We got Brzozowski in there, Daryl Stewart. I got some of my Panthers players in there. They're going against the Enthroners. I think they should be able to put up a little bit of stuff, a little bit of numbers. And then the Nordic Storm defense going against the Hamburg offense, which, Matt, we talked about, not been great. It has not been great at all. And I really like that Nordic Storm defense. You always got to throw a little Marco Schneider in there. Just as a little wild card. Okay, so my squad is solid. Okay, it's solid. But I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about. Max, should we throw up Matt's squad and see how ridiculous this is?
I've got a good squad, right? It's a nice one. Obviously, I've got Jadrian playing against Hamburg. We just talked about that defense not being great, so he's going to have a big one. also gunning for MVP. I've got Zozo. I think he's become a bit more that red zone runner. I want to see him get more action, but playing a bad team, he should be able to overcome that. Nicholas Kantar was the issue. I didn't pick him last week, and I would have won if I didn't. I went for Schultz, and every single one of my players in my fantasy scored. Schultz scored 2 at nearly 100 yards. Nicholas Kantar did like 130 and 2. So that was the only reason I lost last week, which I'm still not over, by the way. Aaron Cruikshank, obviously, kind of goes without saying. Dal Stewart, again, playing on a weaker team, should be able to do well. Florian Beobama, he's a phenomenal. I could go Andrea Botello Moreno. I'm tempted to switch out, because I've got the capital to do so, Nick.
You do have the capital to do so. Gosh.
Because I've got this team, bear in mind, I still got like 1.5 million, so I'm doing pretty good. And I've obviously got Woody P, got Represent, I've got Braun, I've got Stuttgart Surge, because Doman's going to be throwing the rock a lot. I think they could get some nice turnovers. I could kind of basically do whatever I want with this team. It's basically how far can imagination stretch,
Yeah, there's a little bit of wealth inequality here right now in our situation. I'm just trying to scrape by with my measly salary cap, and Matt's over here with $20 million, able to put together any roster that he wants. But you know what, Matt? You earned it with your smart play and your smart tradings, and you earned it. I shouldn't be complaining right here. So do not forget, everybody, to set your fantasy teams before midnight, I believe it is, by the deadline. Do that every single week, and then maybe, who knows, you'll crack the top 10, maybe even the top 8, and beat Matt Bressington. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to come back. I'll be comeback player of the year in fantasy, because I've been pretty bad. All right, everybody. There we have it. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for watching on this Friday. Once again, happy 4th of July to all my American counterparts. Matt, sorry about the American flag today. This has to happen once a year. It's a special day. And don't forget to give us a like or a thumbs up on this live, or the re-live if you are watching it. It does help us out. All right, Matt, you got any final words for the people?
Prague to the playoffs. Prague never die. Prague to the moon.
There we go. I'll leave you with that. We will end Prague to the playoffs. Matt Bressington, be sure to tune in tomorrow, 6 p.m. European time, and I'll be on that Prague game, and I'll try and sneak Matt Bressington's name in there. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.